Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council and felt smaller than he had ever felt in his entire life. The room stretched up so high that he could not see the ceiling. Around him floated holographic images of 600 different alien species. Some looked like insects made of crystal, others were blobs of glowing gas. A few resembled Earth animals, but with too many eyes or limbs in the wrong places. Every single one of them was staring at the small human delegation with expressions that Jake had learned to read as either curious or disgusted. He kept his back straight and his face calm, even though his heart was pounding in his chest like a war drum. Next to him stood Ambassador Linda Carter. She was holding a small device that projected images into the air above her hand. The images showed things that made Jake want to look away, but he forced himself to keep watching. Burned buildings, broken toys scattered in the dirt, bodies covered with white sheets. The colony on Centauri Prime had been home to 3,000 people. Now it was home to nobody. The Krell had made sure of that 6 weeks ago when their warships appeared in the sky and started firing. They did not send a warning. They did not ask for surrender. They just killed everyone they could find. The Chancellor of the Council was a being called a Vrexian. It looked like a giant praying mantis made of glass that sparkled with inner light. When it moved one of its long arms, the entire chamber went silent. Jake felt the weight of that silence pressing down on him like a physical thing. The Chancellor spoke, and the Universal Translator, in Jake's ear, turned the clicking and humming sounds into words he could understand. Ambassador Carter, you have asked for this. Emergency meeting to talk about what your people call the Centauri incident. The Council will hear your petition now. Linda stepped forward. Her voice did not shake, even though Jake knew she had lost friends on Centauri Prime. She had lost people she loved. She spoke clearly and calmly as she showed the evidence to the Council. Video recordings from security cameras, testimony from the few survivors who had escaped in the last transport ship, analysis of the weapons used in the attack. Everything pointed to the Krell. Everything proved that they had attacked without reason or warning. Honorable members of the Council. 6 weeks ago, the Krell Dominion attacked our colony on Centauri Prime. They killed 3,000 civilians, including 200 children. This attack broke 17 different treaties that protect civilian populations. We have brought proof of everything we are saying. We ask the Council to give us justice and to protect our other colonies from future attacks. The Krell ambassador stood up from his seat. He was huge and covered in bronze scales that caught the light. When he smiled, Jake could see rows and rows of sharp teeth. The Krell ambassador spoke in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. The humans talk about violations, but they built colonies in space that belongs to the Krell Dominion. We were only defending our territory. The Council should punish Earth for invading our space, not reward them for crying about the consequences. Linda's calm mask cracked just a little. Her voice rose slightly when she responded. Disputed territory. We filed our settlement claims 40 years ago. The Krell said nothing until we found valuable minerals in the system. You murdered children who were born on that world. Silence. The Chancellor's voice cut through the rising noise in the chamber like a knife. The Council will discuss this matter in private. Ambassador Carter, you will wait for our decision. Guards escorted the human delegation to a waiting room. It was beautiful in an alien way, with furniture that did not quite fit human bodies and art on the walls that hurt to look at for too long. Jake watched Linda collapse into a chair that had been designed for someone with 3 legs. Colonel Henry Brooks stood by the door with his arms crossed. Henry ran Earth's intelligence division, and he had spent the entire 3-month journey here analyzing Council politics. They are not going to help us. Henry said it quietly but firmly. The Krell have trade deals with more than half the species in the Council. We have deals with maybe a dozen species, and most of them have no real power. The Council runs on favors and money. We have neither. Linda shook her head. They cannot ignore this. 3,000 dead civilians, children. The evidence is complete. They have to do something. Jake stopped pacing and looked at both of them. Do they, though? We have been part of the galactic community for 50 years. The Krell have been here for 12,000 years. They have connections and power and resources that we cannot match. We came here hoping for justice, but maybe justice is not what the Council cares about. The door opened before anyone could respond. A small furry creature that looked like a lemur with 6 eyes came in carrying a data tablet. The Council has reached its decision. You must return to the chamber now. Back in the Great Chamber, the Chancellor did not even stand up. An assistant read the verdict out loud while holographic text appeared in the air, so that everyone could see the words. Jake felt each word like a punch to the gut. The Galactic Council finds that there is not enough evidence to support Earth's claims of unprovoked aggression. The incident at Centauri Prime is considered a regrettable but justified response to human expansion into disputed territory. No punishment will be given to the Krell Dominion. Furthermore, Earth is warned against making accusations that threaten galactic peace. This matter is now closed. The silence that followed felt like death itself. Jake saw Linda's hands shaking. He put his hand on her shoulder to steady her. She took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice was cold and hard as ice. On behalf of humanity, I acknowledge the Council's decision. And I inform you that Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately. We will take care of our own affairs from now on. Chaos erupted. Species were shouting in 100 different languages. The Chancellor was on his feet, waving his crystal arms, trying to restore order. Ambassador Carter, you cannot simply leave the Council. We can, and we are. Linda turned her back on the Council. We came here in good faith. We asked for justice through the proper channels. You showed us that our faith was misplaced. When the Krell attack your colonies next, remember this moment. Remember that you taught us the Council's protection means absolutely nothing. Jake and Henry followed Linda out of the chamber. Behind them, the shouting continued, but none of the humans looked back. They walked through the grand corridors of the Council station, past shocked alien diplomats and confused guards. Nobody tried to stop them. When they reached their ship, Linda finally let herself show emotion. She leaned against the wall and tears ran down her face. 3,000 people, Jake. 3,000, and the Council just decided their lives do not matter. Jake pulled her into a hug. Then we will make their lives matter. We will make sure this never happens again. If the Council will not protect humanity, then humanity will protect itself. The journey back to Earth would take 3 months. 3 months for the news to spread across the galaxy. 3 months for humanity to realize they were truly alone. 3 months for anger to turn into something far more dangerous. The galaxy had made a choice today. They chose convenience over justice. They chose money over lives. They would learn soon enough that humanity remembered betrayals, and humanity knew how to respond when pushed too far. The ship carrying Admiral Jake Morrison back to Earth felt emptier than it should have. The 3-month journey gave everyone too much time to think. Too much time to remember the faces of the Council members who had looked at evidence of mass murder and decided it did not matter. Too much time to wonder what would happen next. Linda Carter spent most days in her quarters writing reports that would probably make no difference. Henry Brooks analyzed intelligence data, trying to figure out which species might attack Earth, now that they had no Council protection. Jake walked the corridors of the ship and planned for a war he hoped would never come, but knew was inevitable. By the time they reached Earth orbit, the news had already spread across human space. Every colony knew about the betrayal. Every settlement had heard that the Council refused to help. Messages flooded in from frightened civilians asking what would happen now. Angry military officers demanding permission to strike back. Politicians arguing about whether Earth had made the right choice by leaving the Council. But President Lisa Morgan silenced all the arguments when she gave her speech from the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. Jake watched the broadcast from his office at Earth Defense Command. Lisa stood at a podium with the flags of every Earth nation behind her. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. Citizens of Earth and all our colonies, the Galactic Council has made their choice. They chose money over justice. They chose old alliances over the lives of our children. So be it. Humanity has always stood alone when it mattered most. We will do so again. Effective immediately, all trade with Council members is suspended. All human ships are recalled to Earth-controlled space. Our colonies will be defended. And I am activating Article 7 of the Earth Defense Charter, Total War Protocol. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Total War Protocol was something humanity had created after the Third World War. It was a promise and a threat. A promise that every human alive would do whatever was necessary to survive. A threat that humanity knew how to fight when survival was at stake. It meant every factory would start making weapons. Every scientist would work on military projects. Every resource would be directed toward one goal: victory. Within hours, Jake's computer was flooded with messages. Deployment orders, production schedules, strategic plans, ship designs, weapon specifications. The entire human civilization was transforming itself into a war machine, and it was happening faster than Jake had thought possible. Factories that made civilian vehicles started making tanks. Shipyards that built cargo haulers started building warships. Research facilities that studied medicine started studying weapons. Humanity had decided that if the galaxy would not protect them, then they would protect themselves. A message appeared on Jake's screen from Dr. Claire Bennett. She was the head of the Advanced Weapons Division, and Jake had worked with her before. The message was short. "Admiral, I need to show you something immediately. Come to Research Station 7 on the moon. Come alone." Jake took a shuttle to the moon the next day. Research Station 7 was buried 3 kilometers under the surface, hidden among dozens of other military bases. Getting inside required passing through security checkpoints that scanned everything from his DNA to his thoughts. When he finally reached the main laboratory, Dr. Bennett was waiting for him. She looked like she had not slept in days, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Admiral, welcome to Project Wrath. Let me show you what we have been building while everyone thought we were good, peaceful members of the Council." Holograms filled the air around them. The first one showed what looked like a missile, but the numbers made Jake stop breathing. Kinetic Orbital Decimation System, a weapon that launched projectiles at 98% the speed of light. Claire explained it in simple terms. The Krell have better shields than us, better energy weapons, better armor, but shields are designed to stop lasers and plasma and conventional explosives. They are not designed to stop mass moving at near light speed. When something that big hits something that fast, the shield just breaks. The kinetic energy is equivalent to a nuclear bomb, but there is no radiation. No warning, just physics. Jake walked around the hologram, studying it from every angle. His mind was already calculating how to use this weapon. The Krell liked to mass their fleets together, using their numbers as an advantage. Against this weapon, a massed fleet would be a perfect target. Every ship too close together to dodge. Every vessel a sitting duck. What else do you have? Claire smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "Admiral, that is just the simple option." The next hologram was more complex. Something about quantum mechanics and entanglement. Jake understood enough to get the basic idea. A weapon that used quantum effects to destroy any system that relied on faster-than-light communication, which meant every ship in the galaxy, every shield generator, every power core, every computer system. We call it the quantum disruptor. One pulse and every piece of advanced technology in range just stops working. Their ships go dark. Their shields fail. Their weapons stop firing. It only works in a limited area, but against a fleet or a space station it would be devastating. Jake felt his heart pounding. These were not theoretical weapons. These were tools of absolute destruction. "Tell me you tested them." "We did. Deep space tests. Ships with no registration. Locations that nobody monitors. The Council never knew. We told ourselves it was just insurance. That we would never need to use them." Claire met his eyes. "Looks like we were wrong about that last part." Jake stood in silence for a long moment. Humanity had joined the galactic community with open hands and hopeful hearts. They had wanted to learn and share and grow, but they had also kept secrets. They had prepared for the possibility that their hope would be betrayed. The galaxy had mistaken kindness for weakness. That was a mistake that would cost them dearly. How long until these weapons are ready for deployment? The kinetic systems can be operational in 3 months. The quantum disruptors need 6 months. But there is one more thing, Admiral. Something that we really did not want anyone to know about. Claire brought up another hologram. This one showed ships unlike anything Jake had seen before. Sleek and dark with no obvious weapons or engines. The design was strange and beautiful and terrifying. We call them ghost ships, complete stealth systems. No heat signature, no electromagnetic emissions, no gravitational distortion. They are invisible to every type of sensor the Council uses. We can get right next to an enemy fleet and they will never know we are there until we start firing. Jake stared at the designs. How many of these do we have? 20 are already built. We can make more if needed. They are equipped with the kinetic systems. Each ship carries 5 projectiles. That means we can hit 100 targets in a single strike, and the enemy will never see us coming. Jake felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. Pride that humanity had been smart enough to prepare for betrayal. Sadness that they had been right to prepare. The galaxy had given Earth a choice. Join us and trust us or stand alone. Earth had tried trust. Now they would try standing alone, and they would stand with weapons that could reshape the balance of power in known space. Get everything ready, Claire. Train crews for the ghost ships. Prepare the kinetic systems for deployment. Start production on the quantum disruptors, and do it all quietly. When we reveal what we have built, I want it to be a complete surprise. Claire nodded. What are you planning, Admiral? Jake looked at the hologram of the ghost ships floating in the air. I am planning to send a message that the entire galaxy will understand. The Council betrayed us. The Krell murdered our people. Now we are going to show them what happens when you push humanity too far. We are going to deploy. 6 months passed and the Krell made their move. 3 more human colonies came under attack. The Krell fleet appeared in orbit around each settlement and demanded immediate surrender. When the colonists refused, the Krell opened fire. Buildings burned. People died. The Krell seemed to think that Earth was helpless now that the Council had refused to help. They were wrong. What the Krell did not know was that every single colonist had been evacuated weeks before the attacks. The colonies they destroyed were empty, except for automated defense systems and sensor arrays. Humanity was not scrambling to defend itself. Humanity was gathering information, learning Krell tactics, watching their formations, studying their weapons, and now humanity was ready to respond. Commander Alex Price sat in the command chair of the Valkyrie and watched the display screens with focused intensity. She was young for a ship commander, but Jake Morrison had chosen her personally for this mission. The Valkyrie was one of the new ghost ships, completely invisible to any sensor technology the Council species used. Around her in the darkness of space, 20 more ghost ships waited silently. They were hunting. The target was a Krell fleet assembling in the Arcturus system. 200 ships ranging from small destroyers to massive dreadnoughts that could level a city with a single shot. It was a force designed to crush any resistance. A force meant to terrify Earth into submission. The Krell had gathered all these ships to attack another human colony. They wanted to send a message that resistance was futile. They were about to learn that they had sent that message to the wrong species. Admiral, this is Commander Price. The target fleet is holding position in Sector 7. All 200 vessels are accounted for. They show no indication that they have detected our presence. Awaiting your orders. The response came back almost instantly over the quantum communication channel. Jake Morrison's voice was calm and cold. All ships, this is Morrison. You are authorized to engage. Show them what we have been building. Show them what happens when they push us too far. Weapons free. Alex felt the ship respond to her commands. The kinetic orbital decimation systems came online with a hum that she could feel through the deck plates. Each ghost ship carried 5 projectiles. 20 ships meant 100 rounds total. 100 chances to send a message that would echo across the entire galaxy. The targeting computers locked onto 100 different Krell vessels, spreading the attack across their entire formation. Firing solutions locked. All ships report ready to fire. Waiting for your command. Fire. In the silence of space, 100 projectiles launched simultaneously. Each one was about the size of a small car. Each one accelerated to 98% the speed of light in less than 3 seconds. The Krell sensors started screaming warnings, but there was no time for the crews to react. No time to raise additional shields. No time to turn their ships. No time to do anything except die. The first projectile hit a Krell dreadnought in the middle section. The shield tried to form, but it was designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles. Against something moving at near light speed, it was like trying to stop a bullet with a piece of paper. The kinetic energy transfer was instant and total. The dreadnought did not explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment there was a ship. The next moment there was an expanding cloud of superheated gas and debris. Then the second impact hit. And the third, and the fourth. Within 15 seconds, 100 projectiles found 100 targets. The Krell fleet that had controlled this region of space for thousands of years was erased. Not defeated. Not damaged, erased, gone. 200 ships reduced to scattered atoms and fading radiation. The entire engagement lasted less than 30 seconds from first launch to final impact. Alex stared at her display screens in shock. The tactical computer was trying to find targets, but there were none left. Every single Krell ship had been destroyed. Not a single vessel remained intact. Not a single crew member survived. Her tactical officer was the first one to speak, and his voice shook. Commander, we just killed 30,000 Krell in half a minute. Alex forced herself to stay calm. "We just sent a message, and the galaxy is going to receive it very clearly." Jake Morrison watched the sensor data come in from the battle. He was sitting in his office at Earth Defense Command, surrounded by screens showing information from across human space. The Battle of Arcturus had been even more successful than he had hoped. Not a single human ship had been damaged. Not a single ghost ship had been detected. The Krell had been completely surprised and completely destroyed. Now came the important part, making sure everyone knew what had happened and why. Jake opened a communication channel to every network humanity could access. He did not send the message through official diplomatic channels. He sent it through civilian networks, trading posts, entertainment broadcasts, news services. He wanted every species in the galaxy to see exactly what humanity had done. He wanted everyone to understand that the rules had changed. The message included footage from the human fleet sensor arrays, multiple camera angles showing the Krell Armada in all its terrible glory, then showing that same Armada vanish in a series of brilliant flashes. The footage was clinical and clear. No propaganda. No commentary. Just the facts. 200 Krell warships destroyed in 30 seconds. Accompanying the footage was a message from Jake himself. He had recorded it carefully, making sure his face showed no triumph or satisfaction, only exhaustion and determination. To all the species of the Galactic Council, "You abandoned humanity when we asked for justice. You chose to protect the Krell instead of protecting innocent civilians. You taught us that the Council offers no real protection. You taught us that we must defend ourselves. You have just witnessed the result of that lesson." The Krell fleet at Arcturus represented 1/10 of their total military power. It no longer exists. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration. Jake paused in the recording, letting the words sink in. Humanity does not want war with the galaxy. We never did. We came to the Council seeking peace. We wanted to learn and grow and contribute. You rejected that vision? Very well. From this day forward, humanity will protect itself. Our colonies are now off limits. Our space is sovereign territory. Any species that threatens human lives will face the same response you just witnessed. We call this Operation Deterrence. We hope it is the last battle we ever fight. But if we must fight again, we will not hesitate. You taught us that mercy is weakness in this galaxy. We learned that lesson well. The message ended with a simple star map showing human-controlled space. A red line marked the boundaries. Below the map was a single line of text in multiple languages. Cross this line at your own risk. The reaction across the galaxy was immediate and chaotic. Some species called for immediate action against Earth. They wanted humanity crushed before these new weapons could spread. Other species looked at the footage from Arcturus and decided that maybe humanity should be left alone. The Krell themselves went completely silent. Their government issued no statements. Their military sent no threats. They were too busy trying to figure out how they had just lost 1/10 of their fleet without even scratching a single human ship. But the most important reaction came from the Galactic Council itself. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Council was truly afraid. They had always been the most powerful force in known space. They had always decided who lived and who died, who prospered and who suffered. Now a species they had dismissed as primitive had demonstrated the power to challenge that authority. The galaxy was changing, and the Council did not know how to stop it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most attended meeting in recorded history. Every single species sent their highest-ranking officials. The chamber that had witnessed humanity's humiliation 6 months earlier now buzzed with nervous energy and barely hidden fear. The Vrexian Chancellor who had presided over Earth's betrayal now looked smaller somehow. His crystalline body seemed to have cracks that were not there before. When he spoke, his voice lacked the authority it once held. The destruction of the Krell fleet at Arcturus represents a crisis unlike anything we have faced. Never before has a species deployed weapons of such terrible power. The humans have violated every principle of civilized warfare. They have shown a capacity for violence that threatens the stability of our entire civilization. A voice interrupted from the visitors' gallery. Ambassador Seth Williams stood where human delegates used to sit when Earth was still a council member. Now he stood in a section reserved for observers, species that had no vote and no voice. But Seth spoke anyway. With respect, Chancellor, humanity never signed any treaties limiting our weapons development. We were excluded from those negotiations because the Council decided we were too primitive to participate. You cannot accuse us of violating rules you never allowed us to help create. The Krell ambassador rose from his seat. His bronze scales were darker than usual, almost black with rage. His voice rumbled through the chamber like an earthquake. The humans committed an act of war against the Krell Dominion. 200 ships destroyed, 30,000 crew killed, all without warning or declaration of hostilities. This is not defense. This is murder. The Council must authorize immediate military action against Earth. Seth laughed, and the sound was bitter and cold. Now you want to talk about acts of war. After you murdered 3,000 of our civilians at Centauri Prime. After you attacked 3 more colonies while the Council did nothing. You want to discuss murder? Let me give you some numbers. Human deaths total 6,000 civilians, including 500 children. Krell deaths total 30,000 soldiers aboard warships engaged in military aggression. Tell me, Ambassador, which species is the real monster here? Another voice entered the discussion. The Thaxian matriarch floated forward on her anti-gravity platform. Her species was known for wisdom and philosophy. When she spoke, the entire chamber quieted to listen. Perhaps we should examine our own responsibility in this crisis. The humans came to us seeking justice, and we denied them. They came seeking protection, and we refused them. Now they have protected themselves, and we call them murderers. The real question is not what punishment we should give to Earth. The real question is what we have learned about abandoning our responsibilities to weaker members. The chamber erupted into chaos. Half the species agreed with the matriarch. The other half demanded that humanity be punished. But underneath all the arguments ran a current of pure fear. Everyone had seen the footage from Arcturus. Everyone understood that humanity had been underestimated. That mistake had cost the Krell 30,000 lives. Who would be next if the Council made the wrong move? While the Council argued, the Krell Dominion was holding its own emergency meetings. On the fortress world of Krell Prime, the War Council gathered in a chamber built for conquest and glory. Now it felt like a tomb. War Master Krek stood before holographic displays showing the last moments of the Arcturus fleet over and over again. Each viewing made the situation clearer and more terrifying. The humans achieved total surprise. Our sensors detected nothing before the attack. The projectiles moved at speeds our shields cannot counter. Analysis shows they are pure kinetic weapons, no exotic physics, no advanced energy systems, just mass and velocity, simple physics used to devastating effect. One of the Council members leaned forward. His scales were scarred from 1,000 battles. How many of these weapons do the humans possess? Unknown. Intelligence reports show multiple installations throughout human space. We detected construction activity for months, but we did not understand what they were building. Conservative estimates suggest they could repeat the Arcturus attack at least 10 more times. Possibly 20. The silence that followed was heavy as lead. The Krell fleet numbered 2,000 ships total. If humanity could launch 10 more attacks like Arcturus, they could eliminate the entire Krell military within hours. 20 attacks would leave the Dominion completely defenseless. Every Council member present understood the mathematics of extinction. What do you recommend, War Master? The question came from the leader of the War Council. Krex took a deep breath before answering. The Dominion did not survive 12,000 years by being stupid or proud. They survived by knowing when to fight and when to negotiate. Negotiation. We assumed the humans were weak because they joined the Council peacefully. We assumed their preference for diplomacy meant they could not fight. We were wrong. They have weapons that can destroy us. They have demonstrated the will to use those weapons. I recommend we approach Earth with an offer of ceasefire and formal recognition of their territorial claims. The Dominion does not surrender. The words came from a younger Council member who had never faced a superior enemy. Krex turned to face him. No, the Dominion does not surrender. But the Dominion also does not commit suicide for the sake of pride. The humans drew a line. We crossed that line and lost 200 ships. If we cross it again, we may lose everything. The galaxy is large. There is room for both the Krell and humanity to prosper without conflict. The debate lasted 6 hours. Arguments were made for revenge and for caution, for pride and for survival. In the end, survival won. The Krell would reach out to Earth not as conquerors approaching primitives, but as equals approaching equals. It was a bitter realization. For 12,000 years, the Krell had been one of the dominant powers in the galaxy. Now they were being forced to negotiate with a species that had only been in space for a few centuries. But bitter or not, it was better than extinction. The message from the Krell Dominion reached Earth 3 days later. It was formal and carefully worded. The Krell requested negotiations to establish formal peace and territorial boundaries. They offered reparations for Centauri Prime and the other colonies. They promised non-aggression and mutual recognition. It was everything humanity had asked the Council for 6 months earlier. Everything the Council had refused to give. Jake Morrison read the message 3 times before calling a meeting with President Lisa Morgan and Ambassador Linda Carter. They gathered in a secure conference room deep underground. The weight of the decision they had to make hung heavy in the air. They killed 6,000 of our people. Linda's voice was quiet but hard. They destroyed our colonies. They murdered children. Now they want peace because we showed them we can fight back. Yes. Jake met her eyes. And we can refuse their offer and continue the war. We can destroy more of their fleets. We can kill more of their people. We can pursue revenge until one of us is completely destroyed. Or we can accept that we have made our point and build something better than revenge. Lisa Morgan spoke for the first time. What do you recommend, Admiral? I recommend we negotiate, not because the Krell deserve mercy, but because our people deserve peace. We have shown the galaxy that humanity cannot be pushed around. Now we show them that we can be generous in victory. Besides, the Krell may prove more useful as allies than as enemies. Someone on the Council manipulated them into attacking us. Together we might discover who and why. The 3 of them looked at each other for a long moment. Finally, Lisa nodded. Arrange the negotiations, Admiral. But make sure the Krell understand that this is their only chance. If they betray us again, there will be no third opportunity. Jake smiled grimly. Oh, they understand. They saw what happened at Arcturus. They know exactly what we are capable of now. Fear is a powerful teacher. The negotiations took place on a neutral station owned by the Thaxian matriarchy. The Thaxians had emerged as mediators in the conflict between humanity and the Krell. Their philosophical nature allowed them to see past immediate anger to long-term stability. The station floated in empty space far from any inhabited system. A place where old enemies could meet without fear of ambush or treachery. Admiral Jake Morrison led the human delegation. Across the negotiating table sat War Master Krex and 3 other high-ranking Krell officials. Council observers watched from the sides, though their influence had diminished greatly since the Battle of Arcturus. Jake studied Krex carefully. The Krell commander was old by their standards. His scales showed scars from countless battles, but his eyes were clear and intelligent. This was not a mindless warrior. This was a survivor who understood when pride had to give way to practicality. Humanity demands full recognition of our sovereignty over all established colonies. We demand reparations for the lives lost at Centauri Prime and the subsequent attacks. We demand formal acknowledgement that the Krell Dominion committed acts of aggression against civilians, and we demand a commitment to non-interference in human affairs. Jake delivered the terms without emotion or anger. Just facts. Krex listened without interruption. In another time, such demands would have been laughable. The Krell did not negotiate with species they considered inferior. But the ghosts of 30,000 dead crew members changed the equation. When Krex finally spoke, his voice was measured and careful. The Dominion accepts your territorial claims. We will provide compensation to the families who lost members at Centauri Prime. But we will not grovel or beg forgiveness. The Dominion acted on information we believe to be accurate regarding disputed territories. We now know that certain council members provided false intelligence to both our species. They wanted us to fight each other. They profited from our conflict. That revelation caused murmurs among the council observers. The implication was clear and damning. Some species on the council had deliberately manipulated both humanity and the Krell into war. They had traded lives for profit and power. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. There would be time to deal with those traitors later. Right now he needed to secure peace for his people. Then perhaps we have been fighting the wrong enemy, War Master. The Galactic Council benefits from keeping newer species weak and divided. Together we could challenge their economic monopoly and political control. Krex's scales shifted color slightly. A Krell gesture that Jake had learned meant agreement or interest. We have suspected for some time that certain council members profit from regional conflicts. Your demonstration at Arcturus was instructive in more ways than one. It showed us that we were attacking the wrong target. The negotiations continued for 3 days. What emerged was not simply a peace treaty, but a strategic alliance. Humanity would share certain technologies with the Krell, improving their defensive capabilities. In return, the Krell would provide access to their trading networks and intelligence about Council activities. Together, they would present a united front against a galaxy that had failed both species. It was an unlikely partnership, but it was built on mutual respect earned through conflict. 2 years passed and the galaxy adjusted to the new reality. The Human-Krell alliance grew beyond its original members. 12 other species, tired of Council neglect and manipulation, requested membership. Together, the alliance represented 20% of galactic economic output and military power that even the Council could not ignore. Trade flourished between alliance members. Technology was shared. Defenses were coordinated. What had started as a response to betrayal had become something greater. A new model for how species could cooperate as equals rather than subjects of Council authority. Ambassador Linda Carter found herself standing in the Galactic Council chamber once again. But this time she was not a petitioner begging for justice. She was the representative of the Alliance, one of the most powerful blocks in known space. The chamber looked smaller somehow. Or perhaps Linda had grown larger. The Vrexian Chancellor who had presided over Earth's betrayal looked old and tired. His crystalline body showed cracks and fractures. The Council had lost much in 2 years. Members had defected to the Alliance. Trade routes had shifted. The monopoly on power was broken. Ambassador Carter, the Chancellor's voice lacked its former authority. The Council extends an invitation for humanity to rejoin our body. We acknowledge that errors were made in how we handled your initial petition. We wish to make amends and restore the relationship we once had. Linda smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. 2 years ago, those words would have meant everything. Now they were too little and far too late. Humanity appreciates the offer. However, we must decline. We have learned important lessons about self-reliance and the value of choosing allies carefully. The Alliance serves our interest better than Council membership ever did. She paused and looked up at the 600 species represented in the chamber. How many of them had voted to abandon Earth? How many had chosen money over justice? How many had the blood of Centauri Prime on their hands? We are not here to discuss membership. We are here to present facts. The Alliance will no longer tolerate Council interference in our territories. We will not accept Council sanctions or trade restrictions, and we will defend any Alliance member with the same force we demonstrated at Arcturus. This is not negotiable. The chamber went silent. This was not a request or a petition. This was a declaration of independence backed by weapons that could reshape the galaxy. You cannot simply reject Council authority. The Chancellor began, but Linda cut him off. We can and we have. You taught us that power is the only thing that matters in this galaxy. Very well. The Alliance has sufficient power to enforce our sovereignty. The only question is whether you will accept this peacefully or whether you need another demonstration like Arcturus. She let that threat hang in the air before softening slightly. However, the Alliance is not seeking conflict. We propose a new arrangement. The Council maintains authority over its member species. The Alliance maintains independence. We will establish trade relationships and cultural exchanges where appropriate, but we will never again submit to Council jurisdiction. It was a partition of galactic power. The Council would continue to exist, but it would no longer be the sole authority. The Alliance offered an alternative based on voluntary cooperation, rather than enforced hierarchy. The Thaxian matriarch was the first to speak in support. Perhaps this is the evolution our galaxy needs. Competition between different governance models will make us all stronger. I support recognition of the Alliance as an independent entity with full rights and protections. Others followed. Not all of them, but enough. The vote took 6 hours. In the end, recognition of Alliance sovereignty passed with 68% support. It was not unanimous, but it was sufficient. The galaxy had been remade not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that there were alternatives to Council rule. As Linda left the chamber for the last time, Jake Morrison was waiting outside. They stood together looking out at the stars through a massive viewport. How does it feel to have changed everything? Jake asked quietly. Linda thought about the question for a long moment. They had started this journey seeking justice for 3,000 dead. They had ended it reshaping the political structure of civilized space. It feels right. Not revenge, but justice. We honored their memory by making sure no other species will be abandoned the way we were. The Council betrayed Earth, but the galaxy watched us deploy something more powerful than weapons. We deployed the idea that being young does not mean being weak, that seeking peace does not mean accepting injustice. Jake nodded slowly. The kinetic weapons and quantum disruptors and stealth ships were impressive, but the real weapon humanity had deployed was courage. The courage to stand alone when necessary and the wisdom to build alliances as equals. Above them, the galaxy continued spinning, unchanged in its physics but transformed in its politics. Humanity had arrived seeking friendship and been given betrayal. They had responded not with blind rage but with calculated strength. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy a new way forward, a way built on mutual respect and genuine cooperation. The Council had betrayed Earth, and the galaxy had watched humanity deploy a vision of what civilization could be when justice mattered more than convenience. It was a lesson that would echo across the stars for generations to come.